Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here at Earth and Sky. And those of you joining us live in our online audience, welcome to Earth and Sky Center. It's always so great to have you with us during these talks. Our theme last year was the Wheel of the Year. We'll still be covering that as the wheel turns next month. But we've also this year gone a little bit more in depth talking about the moon phases. So each of the moons every month has a different name, and then we have, of course, the blue moon, which we touched on, and we've been going in depth into some of the smaller, the 8 different phases of each lunar month. But right now we're coming up to another full moon. So this is one of my most exciting, my most favorite topics this year is when we go in depth into the story behind each moon. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about a story for August moon. So if you can imagine, when we talk about the new moon phases, we're going back in time to the First Nations, and where there were several First Nation tribes all around in the Americas. And each of these tribes had different names for the moon. Some of them had the same name because they were relating to things going on in their lives, but there are a few different names for each of them as well. So in the Great Lakes region and around Lake Champlain, you can imagine that the great blue lakes were just brimming with life. And there's a mighty large fish called the sturgeon who was swimming through these beautiful blue waters. You can imagine with the full moon's light shining down on the lakes and the surface of the water just rippling ever so slightly. And hunters in their boats angling to catch some of these great swimmers of the deeper parts of the Great Lakes. The water surface rippling under the full moon light, the lakes begin to feel like they're communicating with each other. It seems as though all of the water is communicating with each other, not just the lakes, but the rivers, the streams, even the rain, all the way out to the ocean. All of this life seems connected when you're the sturgeon and you swim through the rivers and the lakes and you swim deep and far and wide. And this moon for August is called the Sturgeon Moon. In this moon, we begin to start thinking about how we can communicate with each other better. And we also take a look in that watery aspect that the moon beckons us to as well. The moon represents our emotional side. It brings out those inner aspects within our personality, those hidden things that are a little bit beneath the surface. And water does that as well, because water is also an emotional aspect, and it brings in that feminine aspect, the softer side within us, that part that flows a little bit more than when we're on land in the earthly aspects. Pisces is the sign for the moon this month as well, so that adds to it even further. And we start looking at how we can communicate with each other better. This is a really good moon to figure out how to find others with similar interests. Preparation is starting to begin for the coming months as we edge closer into fall, the final days of summer seeming to start heralding around us. And then if you want to look in a little bit deeper about the sturgeon is quite an impressive fish. It's actually one of the larger fish, and it's one of the older fish, as sturgeon was actually around in the era of the dinosaurs. So if you look at sturgeon, it has kind of a thornier appearance to us, or to it. I think I'm relating into the sturgeon a little bit. And so it has the larger thorny bodies. It has great strength and a tremendous ability to survive. And if you were born between July 23rd and August 22nd, then you're under the sign of sturgeon as an animal totem. Yes, you and you. And you. Several people here today. And so each of these aspects of this impressive fish are aspects that you may find within yourself. So sometimes the sturgeon may have a thornier outer exterior, maybe sometimes seeming a bit aggressive at times, but that usually is hiding something beneath the surface where there's a softer side, an emotional part that gets hurt easily and they don't want it to show. Just different aspects of the sturgeon. If the sturgeon is out of balance, then sometimes it might seem that that aggressive side comes out a little bit more and that they're very easily hurt. But if they're in balance, then a lot of times they can be fantastic empaths, being able to sense what other people are feeling while not taking those energies and those emotions onto themselves. The sturgeon has this great ability to really dance in the element of emotion too, to dance in the water, to leap sometimes out of the water and dive into the great depths of the water. So it represents this aspect of being able to think back on beautiful memories and remember the emotions and remember the people and remember the aspects of what has touched our lives, and to embrace those aspects, good and bad, to embrace all of it with a clear heart and a deep thought. So during this time of year, it's great for all of us, whether you're born under the sign or not, to start embracing some of those signs of the sturgeon. How can those things begin to relate into your life? When the natives were gathering around the Great Lakes and Lake Champlain, this was the time of year where they knew sturgeon could be caught quite easily. And you can imagine what a feast they would have with such a large fish and the celebrations that could be had around the sturgeon being caught. The other names for this moon, because as I mentioned, there were several tribes and they didn't all communicate with each other. So this moon was sometimes called the thunder moon. And you can imagine if you were in the desert area, maybe in Arizona or New Mexico, and where they have the monsoons that come rolling in. So 300 days of sunshine, and then all of a sudden this time of year hits and the thunderstorms shake the ground and the tents that you're sleeping in, and it rocks the whole community, and the rains pour for days at a time, and how that can change their ability to hunt and to gather, and everything that goes on in the dynamic of the community, the celebration with the rain dances as they have overcome this long drought through winter, and they celebrate the thunder moon that finally hangs overhead. Sometimes it's called the red moon because in summer's end, we start seeing that beautiful red haze in the sky. And August, September, October, we get this amazing red or orange glow as the sun is low in the sky and the moon is rising. It's also at times called the green corn moon, because the corn's a little green right now. We were knee-high by the 4th of July, and then next month is the corn moon. So sometimes they reference the green corn moon. Almost right, but not quite there. And the long nights moon, because this time of year has been such a blast, where we've had these beautiful long nights. The days are so long, and so you can be out until late at night. People have more time to celebrate and enjoy the weather and just enjoy being outside longer, being with family, being with friends, and all of those great things, having bonfires, all of those wonderful festivities of summer where we can celebrate these longer nights because it's not dark at 5 o'clock. It's light until 9 or so. I believe dusk now is, at the beginning of September will be 8:59, where it had been 9:30 and later. So we're edging in on that. As the long nights are starting to come in, and the full moon has a lot of other lunar aspects as well. So some of the other lunar qualities with every full moon, it always represents emotions. And so sometimes when the moon gets really full, it can pull on those emotions within us. It can make us start to peak a little bit. Intuition peaks, emotions peak a little bit. It should never be used as an excuse to let the moon pull you in a different direction. Rather, use this as a time to know that your emotions might peak a little around the full moon, or you might get a little bit spontaneous in what your actions and thoughts might be at this time. So use that so you can harness it instead of feeling like a victim to full moon energy and the craziness that sometimes can ensue, don't fall victim to it. Instead, harness it. Use this as a time to explore your emotions, to look within, to start to develop your intuitive gifts. There are many astrological aspects, specifically this month and this year, that really help you with refining any occult gifts that you're wanting to develop too. If you're wanting to hone in on any psychic talents or learning astrology or learning the tarot or anything like that, this is a great moon to do that, because there are many aspects lining up to embrace that knowledge flowing in. And whenever you have a full moon, you get those opposites, the polarity between the full sun and the full moon, and that outer aspect and the inner aspect. So the sun represents the outer personality and the outer aspects, what you want people to see about who you are. And then the moon is those inner aspects, that's, kind of more who you really are, what's making you tick emotionally. And sometimes we get this pushing and pulling between this inner pressure and inner concerns, and then external pressure, inner tension and external pressure that can lead to some personal conflicts around the time of the full moon. If you're not being careful and you're not watching to make sure you're harnessing the power of the full moon, sometimes some personal conflicts might arise, or some tension within the home or family or different relationships. The moon really has a way to shine its light on our emotions. So when you're paying attention to it and you're using the moon to look into yourself, then you're allowing yourself to grow. You're using it as though it's watering your emotions, watering the seeds within, so you can grow and develop and mature in an emotional way, and see how you can harness that with the stable side within yourself as well. Utilize this time to really look within instead of letting it sway you. Use it to grow yourself. Use the increased emotional strength that comes with each full moon to really increase your intuition, to overcome challenges externally, as well as a time to look within. There are so many different favorable aspects. I'm not going to go into a lot of them right now, but I am just going to touch on two of the things where we have two retrogrades we're finally pulling out of, which will be a relief to a lot of people. Mercury is finally pulling out and going direct, and Mars is also finally pulling out and going direct. So things will start to swing into a little bit more action. If you feel like you've been held back or tied back by certain things, both of those are finally turning and going direct around the same time of the full moon. So Mercury is going direct August 19th, but it will still be in the shadow phase until September 2nd. And Mars is going direct August 27th and will be in the shadow phase until October 8th. It has a longer duration for that one. But when Mercury goes in direct, that's when a lot of people that's what more people are familiar with. Don't start those new projects. Be careful of communication. And but really looking at the positive side of it, when it's going retrograde, it's a great time to plan and to research and to think ahead and figure out what you're going to do as soon as it goes direct. So you have a few days left of really figuring out what your goals are. What do you want to be setting up in your life? And start really planning that, because there are a lot of other aspects that are going to be favorable, propelling you forward with that as well. And then as it's going direct, as it pulls out of that shadow phase September 2nd, know that communication is going to work out better. Business prospects will really be able to excel quite well from there on out through the September moon actually. And then for Mars, whenever Mars is in retrograde, it's really a good time to clean up, tidy up, finish those tasks that you have going on already. Complete whatever projects you've started. Again, both of those, you don't want to start anything new because you'll have a lot of hang-ups probably that are holding you back. But so planning and researching for Mercury in retrograde, and then finishing and completing for Mars in retrograde. So finish those tasks. Finish preparing what you want to set for your goals, and really set those goals, because this moon is really going to help start that where you can dream bigger, where you can start thinking bigger, where you can make those plans, set your heights, your eyes on something higher than what you have previously thought. because you can achieve so much with the aspects that are coming up, and you have so much potential within yourself already anyway. Most people, the biggest limitation, the biggest hindrance they have is themselves, because they feel like they are holding themselves back some way. They have these invisible barriers that aren't really there that are holding them back. So know that you can cut through that invisible, imaginary, tangled web, and you can really propel yourself forward. So this is the moon to dream bigger, think bigger, plan bigger, and then use the actual night of the full moon to release, to let go, to clear everything that's been holding you back, everything that you've perceived within your mind as an obstacle. Release that. Maybe write it on a piece of paper, burn it, let the ashes blow away, and see that as clearing that through your life. Because then when you use it as we start entering the new moon energy to plan, and planning much, much bigger, this is the time for those really big, exciting projects that you kind of dreamed about but you weren't sure about. This is the time to dream and really set the stage for it getting even bigger, because the next moon and several other aspects that we might do on a Facebook Live are going to set the stage for really favorable business prospects, really favorable relationship prospects, and really favorable things on a very large, very grand scale. There's something in astrology called the Grand Trine. That's one of the things that's going on. There are a few things we don't want to take too much time talking about it right now, but really plan on setting your sights for planning and dreaming big. This moon with the ending retrogrades and the moon being in Pisces as well is really daring us to dream big. So it's asking us to reach deep and not be afraid, and release whatever we need to be released so that we can really move forward. Release those limitations that we put on ourselves so we can manifest really big in September. And I can't wait to talk to you about September and the moon that's coming then, because there are a lot of great things you're going to be able to plant. All of those seeds, you're going to be able to harvest them quickly. A lot of great things are coming, and I look forward to talking about the harvest time that we are just about entering into as well. I hope all of you enjoyed the Life Talk this week, and I hope you have a fantastic week in your lives, and I hope you learn to really harness this power of the beautiful Sturgeon Moon, the Thunder Moon, whatever you want to call it, depending on where you are in the country. If you like this video, please hit the like button. Please hit the share button if you want to share it out with your friends and family. Like and subscribe to us on YouTube and Facebook. Have a great week.